To welcome everybody to the June 5th, 2013 meeting of the Revere Conservation Commission. It's 4:15 in the afternoon. First item on the agenda is a roll call. Member Joseph Laval. Here. Vice Chair Joseph James. Here. Member Ann Raponi. Here. Member James Serboni.
Here.
We have member Daniel Bluestein available by phone, and he's participating in the meeting in accordance with open meeting law regulations where he can call in. Daniel?
Here.
Good. Member Vincent Camerata is absent. And I'm Andrew DeSantis, Chair of the Commission. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of May 1st, 2013. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Vice Chair Joseph James. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by member James Serboni. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Voted in the affirmative unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for DEP file number 0610639, Vanguard at Waterfront Square, Lot 1, redevelopment and construction of a 7-story building which consists of a 5-story residential portion and a 2-level parking garage on Ocean Ave at Revere Street. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Vice Chair Joseph James. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by member Ann Raponi. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Joe?
Good evening.
Introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. For the record, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates, representing Covington Realty Partners in their application to the Commission for construction of a 194-unit apartment building located on the corner of Revere Street and Ocean Ave, known as Lot 1. This is the first phase of multi-phase project that has been envisioned for a very long time, known as Waterfront Square. And we are here tonight or this afternoon to discuss the project and the implications of a couple of resource areas that are under your jurisdiction. The site, some of you were on site on Saturday for the site walk. The site is a fully paved parking lot located again on Ocean Ave, and the plan is to essentially take that parking lot and build above it. It's a 7-story building and a 5-story building.
Maybe if you swing it towards you, you can move the whole setup close to the corner, Joe. There you go. Let's see how that works. Yeah, speak loud.
Sure. Well, to the south is the 7-story tower. There's an interruption in between where there's a 50-foot easement for access to the East County ditch.
He can't, you're not...
Okay.
You could bring it maybe closer.
Bring it. to me. There's, again, an interruption in between the 7-story building and the 5-story building where there's a 50-foot opening. That's where the entrance on Ocean Ave will be. That's also access for Public Works to get to the East County ditch and the land that's to the west of the lot itself. When you are on site, that's the area that's vegetated behind the site. Our site itself is all paved. To the north is the 5-story tower, and there's also a pedestrian walkway which will provide an ADA compliant connection between Revere Street, Ocean Ave and Revere Street, where one currently doesn't exist. If you notice that when you get up to Revere Street, it gets very steep. And what we're doing is putting a walkway in that corner that will serve as a public space, and it will also provide that much needed ADA compliant walkway. Again, the resource areas that are included here are coastal land subject to coastal storm flowage, and we do have the buffer zone of that's associated with the East County ditch. And Greg Hockmuth from my firm is here, and he can talk. He's our wetland scientist. He'll talk in a moment more about the wetland resource areas themselves and the performance standards that we meet. As far as the project, again, it's a project in which we're building the buildings above. There's on the 7-story building, there's 2 levels of parking, and then residents above that. The 5-story, there's 1 parking level above, or 1 level of parking, and then residents above that. So we're working with the natural topography of the site so that we maintain the flood volumes. We are moving some up and down, and the net effect is to have no decrease in the amount of storm or flood capacity of the site itself. We're also making improvements to stormwater that I'll touch upon in a little bit, but I think at this time I'll turn it over to Greg to talk about the resource areas and to begin to touch upon the performance standards of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Introduce yourself, Greg, please.
Good evening. Greg Hockmuth from Hancock Associates. I'm a wetland scientist there. Yeah, not too much to talk about when it comes to Eastern County Ditch. I think most of you are probably familiar with what it does. It mainly just carries stormwater from point A to point B, and eventually it reaches Diamond Creek. The inland bank associated with Eastern County Ditch, it's very sharp and obvious. There's no BVW at all associated with this stretch of Eastern County Ditch. So the buffer zone extends pretty much from that inland bank out and barely clips the project. There's only a small amount of work within that 100-foot buffer zone, and that's in an area that's currently existing paved parking lot. Land subject to coastal storm flowage doesn't have a performance standard associated with it. But with that said, I mean, this project has been designed, with flooding in mind. It's been designed to not take up any of that flood storage. It's slightly in the plus right now, but that's pretty much it in the form of resource areas. I'd be happy to answer any questions if commission members want me to.
You said that this is only a small brook, more or less, but it isn't. That there is very important to the people down and back of the dog track. There's times that I live down there, and they used to come to my house in rowboats and canoes, and because it floods so often. But lately it's been very good because of dredging and so forth. But what I'm going to bring up to you is the fact from where you're going to put up the structure here to the end of it, which is the marsh. If that, you're going to add to that county ditch. And if the people, anybody that dumps in there and it backs up, those people down there, they're going to suffer the tortures of hell, to tell you the truth, because it'll back right up into their cellars. They're right on it. So if you're going to address that there, I would appreciate it. if we could make some kind of an arrangement where you people could keep it clear or something, it'd be great, because otherwise the city's going to go for that. Oh, the ball's in your court.
Certainly. First, just to the point of adding to it, we have designed a stormwater management system that I'll go through with you. But that stormwater management system will result in less water going to the East County ditch in the post-development condition because of certain measures that we're going to put on. We'll continue to work with Public Works on the issue of the ditch itself and cleaning it. They felt very strongly that they be maintained. They have maintained access to the ditch.
Yes.
But the ditch is actually on the power company land that's separated from us by land that's owned by the MBTA. So the project as a whole, not our project, but the Waterfront Square project, has envisioned some additional work back in there, and that was outlined in the environmental impact report. The provisions for doing that work on other properties will come with the subsequent phases. This first phase is, because it has non-floodplain area within it, up by Revere Street, we have the luxury of being able to do the compensation on site with cuts and fills. And when the subsequent projects come forth, they will come before this commission separately, and they will begin to see those additional plans that are envisioned as far as additional work to that area that's proximate to East County Ditch. With regard to the stormwater, I can run through that quickly. Overall, we are providing a drastic improvement to stormwater management on site. Currently, there is a longitudinal drainage system that runs down the center of the parking lot. That's a series of linked catch basins to a main 36-inch line that runs out to the East County Ditch. That line that goes out to the ditch also carries water from Ocean Ave and the city of Revere's drainage system. We are not impacting that line that the city controls at all, but we are making modifications to that longitudinal system. We're relocating some of it out of our way for structure that will be landing on site. We are also adding deep sumps and hoods to the catch basins. And we're also, before we enter into that line, 36-inch line that goes out to the ditch, we are putting a Vort Sentry separator unit on it, which is a hydrodynamic treatment device that's approved by the state for 80% total suspended solids removal. It also has the capacity to take additional oils and greases that the gas traps don't, that the hoods don't take in the catch basins. So we're fully complying with the treatment requirements of DEP under Standard 2. We're not introducing any additional discharges to East County Ditch, and we're providing that treatment, so we're in compliance with Standard 1. With regard to recharge and infiltration, as a redevelopment project and a fully paved site with a reduction in impervious that's realized through this project, through the introduction of some landscape areas, we have a decrease in runoff just from that mere fact. But we're going to go one step further in that we're putting a building on top of this parking lot. So we're intercepting rainwater that now lands on parking lot, and it's going to land on a roof. We're going to pipe those downspouts into an infiltration trench that goes across the back of the building to try to get some recharge. That recharge volume is in excess of our required recharge volume, so we technically meet that requirement. We are providing a link, an overflow from that into the main drainage system because we're not certain of the proximity to groundwater. That we meet technically the requirements of that. We have high groundwater out here. The geotechnical engineers were out, and groundwater ranges from 2 to 4 feet. And with the fact that we have to maintain the existing grades on site for the flood storage, we really don't have the luxury of building up and then maintaining that setback. So while we don't technically meet the setbacks, we feel we've met the spirit of providing additional recharge, clean recharge in the form of roof runoff to the site. We've provided a full operation and maintenance plan that will be implemented for this stormwater management system, which will now be implemented and reports generated. So that's something that may have not been done as vigilantly as will be done from this point on. So that system will be functioning. Some of the catch basins that are out there now are, they're fairly full. They were under the charge of both MBTA and DCR, and that doesn't always get done. But under this scenario with a private entity, that'll get done and records kept. So we feel we meet although we are a redevelopment project, we fully meet all the standards under stormwater and provide, as I said, a vast improvement in management of stormwater on site. With regard to landscaping,
I have some comments on stormwater, if you don't mind. Questions? 3 concerns with regard to meeting the stormwater standards. You mentioned you're not really quite certain of the groundwater table, so a little skeptical about infiltration being suitable for the roof drains and using that as getting credits for infiltration in that capacity. And number 2, the vortex system, or I forget the patent you refer to, but
it's a Vorcentry.
Vorcentry. It's been my experience that those are very difficult to maintain. They help meet TSS removal credits, but maintenance is always an issue. So you mentioned that there's an O&M plan in place. So I'd like to hear a little more detail on what your operations and maintenance are for that system. And third, the deep sump catch basins, those have infiltration capacity as well. And but not knowing where the water table is, what's the benefit of having a deep sump catch basin in this circumstance?
Okay. With regard to the infiltration, again, we're decreasing the amount of impervious. So technically, we're required to provide infiltration for any increase in impervious. So the inclusion of infiltration is above and beyond what we feel we have to do. Under redevelopments, the redevelopment standards from DEP, we're supposed to comply to the extent practicable. And where we're battling, this is not a monetary issue in which we're not putting enough money to it. We're battling the more important requirement to maintain flood storage on site. That's keeping our elevations down. That's hampering our ability to meet that groundwater offset. We're keeping this system as high as possible. It's actually a stone trench in the back, as shallow as possible. So we're maximizing the potential for recharge to occur, where right now none occurs. With regard to the Vorcentry, it can be problematic for operation and maintenance, especially for public works that use a clamshell to clean these units out in these catch basins, and they have plastic inserts. You drop a clamshell in one of these things, you bust up the inserts. So that doesn't work. So our operation and maintenance plan clearly identifies that these need to be done with a vacuum truck by trained professionals, in which they put the vacuum hose down into the port that's in the device that's for cleaning it out. They vac it out, truck it away. So not only are you getting it done properly without hurting the device, but you're also getting the stuff that's coming out of there, both liquid and solids, off-site. So, with regard to the deep sump catch basins, we're designing these as solid, watertight, drainage structures. The purpose of the deep sump is for sediment capacity. So we're trying to get that as our first line of defense, in which sand washes down into, a lot of sand out here, a lot of wind-blown sand. So sand washes down into the catch basins. We have 4 feet by 4 feet in diameter of capacity for that to build up. You got to also understand that we're not receiving direct rainwater. We're a covered roof. So these catch basins are taking a lot less water, but we're providing that there as that additional or first line of defense. The Vort's entry, again, also has that capacity to contain solids. And what we feel is, based on our rigorous operation and maintenance schedule, we're never going to be in a situation where we're taking very much solids out of those areas. We're talking about quarterly inspections with at least biannually removal. And some of that can be flexible with regards to what's happening at the inspections. Inspections aren't flexible. Those are 4 times a year. The removal, we don't want to be removing when there's nothing to remove. But that's laid out in our operation and maintenance plan. I believe that was all the questions. With regard to landscaping, there was some discussion on site with regard to the removal of some mature vegetation up by Revere Street. Again, an important part of this project was that connection from Ocean Ave to Revere Street and public space that's going to be developed in this walkway, that ADA compliant walkway that moves from the two, from one point to the other. And there's a lot of elevation to overcome there, so these are kind of switchback, meandering walkways that work up the hill. We're introducing within that a lot of plantings, as shown on the attached plan and plant list. We have photographs of some of the plant materials that we are using throughout the site, if the commission is interested. But they are appropriate species. They are native species, and the idea is to restore on the peripheral and within the landscape areas of this walkway, those get back to having some mature trees and some shade and just a nice space within there to not only provide access but also provide a public benefit.
Joe, sorry. Go ahead, Joe. Yeah, I was going to ask him a question about that too. Would you put that back up for a second?
Yep, and
please,
just to finish on the landscaping,
okay.
There is additional landscaping that currently doesn't occur across Ocean Ave as far as that completes our landscape plan.
Commissioner Lavelle?
Could you show me the route that an automobile would take to get access to the parking area on that diagram?
The main entrance is here between the 5-story building and the 7-story building. Again, that's a clear opening, both aerial and on the ground, out to the rear property line. And cars will come in here, and they'll either go right or left into the parking garages.
Well, the question I had is in regard to that. It looks like a roadway in the back of the property. Am I mistaken, or is that a road, the complete road that goes all the way across?
No, it's not a roadway at all.
Well, my question is then, this will be the only way into the property, Ocean Ave.
Yes.
There will not be an access road on the south side for maintenance of the county ditch at all?
No, but that entrance on Ocean Ave, again, is clear from Ocean Ave to the back property line and provides the access to the county ditch.
On the adjacent property going south, that isn't your property, is there a paper street in between The next lot?
There is not. There's an easement where we have this opening, where we have this entranceway, and there's two main utilities in there. There's two main utilities in that area. There's the drain line I talked about, the 36-inch, and there's also an MWRA water line. To the north of the short building, there is a main sewer trunk line.
That's the reason why you have that large entrance going in.
The large
We
entrance
talked about that at the site.
Right, is maintaining that easement.
But my concern was that there would be access. This is something for I would assume, the planning board and the traffic commission and everything else, not necessarily conservation commission, but I was just making sure that there was access to the county ditch. And if you have this project going in, and in the future another project going in, sometimes there's paper streets that the city owns that breaks up the property that would allow access of whatever was necessary back there, a backhoe or whatever, that had to keep that ditch open.
No, we have 50 feet between the two buildings and no obstruction height-wise, so anything can get in
Do
there.
you intend to fence the rear of the property?
No, we can't, because we've got to maintain that access. Again, Public Works has made it very clear that they need to continue to have access to the East County ditch.
So the access would be for trucks to go through the main entrance then?
Right.
To the rear of the property?
Right. Yes, but there's no street, or then there's no continuation from there of any improvements. They'll be paved to the back of the parking lot, and then they'll go off the parking lot and continue to go out into that land and get to the ditch that way.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Question. Agawam Street is the
All right,
street.
we'll get to you, Dan.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Joe. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Agawam Street is the street in back here. Now, that doesn't come through anymore. It used to, with a bridge over it. Now, would that, if they put a bridge, somebody put a bridge, whether it's you or the city in there, where you could have access from North Shore Road through Agawam Street right onto your property, I don't know whether it'd be beneficial or what, but it sounds logical that you could get in the back in a hurry in case anything went wrong.
There's no street that comes through the property. I don't know
Not
if there's
anymore.
a street that comes to it.
Agawam Street is the one that comes to you.
Right, but that would have to include a bridge over East County Ditch, and it wouldn't be that far proximate to
No, it isn't.
Revere Street.
It isn't a big ditch, I mean, as far as that goes.
Right, but it wouldn't. It's not that far from Revere Street as far as what additional benefit is
It's 3
provided.
streets down, 3 blocks down.
It's 3 blocks down. I'm not sure if it's.
Yeah,
If
it's
it- if it's-
Beachland Avenue, Calumet Street, and Agawam Street.
No, I'm saying if 3 streets down wouldn't align it with this opening that we
Oh,
have.
it wouldn't, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're not 3 blocks there.
Calumet Street. Anybody else? Daniel, have any questions?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you, Joe, and that's concerning where the ADA access ramp is being built. Looks to me from your drawing that that'll pretty much be all cleared out, be a clear cut prior to construction, and then construct the ramp and do new plantings.
Yes, it's required just for the grading alone.
Yeah, that was the question at the site visit, is how much of the existing growth would be taken out of there, and it
There-
appears most of it would be.
There is some vegetation off property that obviously
Wouldn't be
cut.
touched, but anything that's within your property limits. And what are you planning on planting? What types of trees and how big?
Sure.
Yeah, most of the existing species that are there now, it's predominantly black locust, staghorn sumac, and some bittersweet. What they're proposing, it's a pretty elaborate plan. As Joe mentioned, just about everything being proposed is native. Some of the species are not native, but they're non-invasive. But in this area in particular, as far as trees go, black gum, honey locust, eastern red cedar. There's some sycamore being proposed, which are going to be nice trees for that area. As far as shrubs, there's western serviceberry, sweet pepperbush, northern bayberry, sassafras. And then as far as ground cover, there's a few different types of sedges going in, northern sea oats, tickseed, coneflower, daylilies, black-eyed Susan, and spiderwort. So it's a lot of effort went into this plan, and I think the species they selected are going to fill in and do really well there. As Joe mentioned, we do have some photos of some of these species if anybody was interested in seeing those.
And what size caliper trees for the most part? Say the largest ones, how big will they be?
Let me grab the list.
And Andy, is there going to be some kind of warranty on the plantings? You're going to revisit the plantings after a certain time frame? Or will that be in the conditions?
We can make that a condition, sure.
Yeah, we don't have specific calibers referenced on any of the plans.
Okay.
But ideally, we'd recommend something at least 4-inch caliper for the trees to start, just to get a good jump. And I mean, the shrubs they'll grow pretty quick once everything else is taken out of there.
So once you're done construction, you'll have trees anywhere from 12 to 15 feet tall, maybe 19 feet.
Oh yeah, and the sycamores will get a lot larger than that.
Well, I know they'll get larger, but I'm just trying to visualize what it's going to look like when you just finish construction. Give it a few years, and I'm sure it'll be well grown.
Yeah, and definitely an overall enhancement from what I saw when
They're
I was
like a
out
green now, though black asphalt. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, one more, just a clarification. That walkway will stay the property of the Hancock Associates, not the city or anything. So
No.
you people will be maintaining that.
Yes, the
Correct.
owner, Covington Realty, will maintain it, but it will have necessary easements. It is seen to be a public benefit, public area, but it will be privately owned, privately maintained.
Thank you.
Anything else? What's the will of the commission on this? I've written an order of conditions. It's pretty much a standard order.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to make a recommendation that the erosion control plan outlined on C2 in the NOI, that the erosion controls are monitored on a scheduled basis, and that if any of these are compromised, that a correction is made to
Yes, this site will be, is greater than 1 acre of disturbance. It will be required to file for coverage under the construction general permit of the US EPA under the NPDES permitting process. We will have a SWIP coordinator, a stormwater pollution prevention coordinator on site daily, and keeping logs of his daily inspections and repairs to any of the erosion control.
Okay, so you'd like to see erosion control plan be monitored on schedules shown in the O&M plan? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, any items not in compliance? Be addressed within 2 weeks of discovery?
Yeah, that seems adequate. Yeah.
And the other thing you mentioned was the plantings. Site visit.
Right, I'd just like to see a follow-up on the landscaping plan with some kind of warranty on the plantings in case, any of these trees die, that they get replaced.
Yeah, typically you get a 1-year warranty from your nursery, your landscaper. That's sufficient? You're looking for something additional?
No, that's typical, and that's what I was expecting.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Anything?
We're gonna leave it up to the DPW and these people here to keep the county ditch clean from their property. down.
Yeah, it's really up to the DPW,
Right,
Joe.
I know.
You know, it's in their
Yeah,
best
because those
interest
people,
to
some
be...
of them, their backyards are the ditch.
Yes, especially on the other side.
There you go.
Yeah.
On Bay Road.
Where
Bay
houses
Road is
will
notorious.
be low, that's right.
Okay.
Okay. Daniel, anything? Okay, we have a motion to approve. Issue an order of conditions. Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion to close. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Daniel? Okay, all right, we won't record you as having voted. We got enough other members here. I thought you could, from what you submitted from the... Okay. Okay, so voted. Mr. Lavelle? Okay. I've got to copy that, file it with DEP. Once I do that, I'll send it out. Send it to Joe.
Please.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of
Okay.
the commission.
Welcome. Next item on the agenda is a public meeting, request for determination of applicability for extension of gas main to service 31 Sachem Street, National Grid. Sergio is here for this project.
I apologize. The easel was being used by one of the engineers, so.
Oh, okay. Just introduce yourself. It's not a public hearing, it's a public meeting, so just tell us who you are and...
Hello, my name is Sergio Bonilla, wetland ecologist, mechanical engineers, scientists, and surveyors here on behalf of Boston Gas Company doing business as National Grid for the 20-foot extension of a gas main in front of 25 Sachem Street, extending probably approximately 20 feet to the south. I don't know if you visited the site over the weekend. There was a stub that was clearly visible in the roadway in front of 25 Sachem, and some markers, some painting, some dig safe indications in the roadway where the stub was going to be extended and the service line would go into 31 Sachem Street. Excuse me. Associated with the right of way, the roadway right of way, and the residence is a tidal coastal ditch that when measured was approximately 60 feet from the limit of what would be the excavation for the gas main extension. We proposed to put in a small section of straw wattle to preclude any sedimentation issues or pose any threats of sedimentation to the coastal ditch resource or the tidal ditch resource. It's usually a daily project. This is 20 feet, so it's very, very small, minor. And beyond that, on top of that, the Boston Gas Company is required, I think by regulation, to backfill on a daily basis. So there wouldn't be any stockpiles that would pose a threat for impacts of sedimentation to the tidal ditch. We're also located in bordering land subject to flooding that would have been that would be jurisdictional under 10.54. There's the excavation, like I said, would be a probably a day's worth of work of excavation. There will be no change in grades. Everything will be backfilled and restored to existing condition. Saw cut, narrow saw cuts. You probably see those cuts in the road all the time where there's been some fresh asphalt backfilled over. That's what you're looking at. It's about 20 feet long, probably at the widest, a 20-foot wide trench. And like I said, about a day's long, I would think, unless they hit, inclement weather conditions. So it's about the size of it. Just basically looking here with a goal to get a request for a negative determination of applicability. Any conditions you might have, like I said, we're implementing the BMP there to guard that tidal ditch. I don't believe there are any catch basins in the vicinity, but if there are, normal routine of any of the grid entities is to to insert silt sacks into the catch basins, but I didn't think there were any near there. I'm not sure. They get a package. What will I do if I receive a DOA, a negative DOA? I put together a permitting memo that might have any specific conditions you'd like to see observed or implemented. With that, I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Thanks, Sergio. I do recall going to a site visit for 31 Sachem Street, taking the existing building down to the foundation. We issued an order, I would say April, maybe?
I recall being on site there. I do recall the visit. On Sachem Street.
Yeah. Thanks, Sergio. So this is simply an extension of the gas main require the filing of a determination of applicability. Any questions for Sergio?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman, and I would motion to file a negative determination given the small size of this project and given that the only resource area is a 100-foot buffer zone and the proposed sedimentation control at the end of Sachem Street. So as long as those things are in place, and it's going to be backfilled at the end of each day.
Yeah, like I said, probably shouldn't be more than a day, but absolutely. If it does extend to another day due to inclement weather, it would be backfilled by regulation. Any trenching now, it's a good thing for me as the ecologist to have to, on bigger jobs, even in bigger jobs where you might think you'd have to babysit a little more now. It's a regulation, so they're pretty stringent about it.
You're making that a form of a motion to issue a negative?
I motion for a negative determination.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? So it's the negative determination. Work described in the request is within the area subject to protection under the Act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, the said work does not require the filing of a notice. All those in favor? Any opposed? There you go.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay, and you mentioned you're doing some other maintenance projects.
Boston Gas is just doing some anode repairs.
Yeah, would you stay at the mic, please, Sergio?
Boston Gas Company is just simply doing some anode repairs to some of their locations near Railroad Street. There's where the solar farm is now.
Oh, okay.
Just cutting in the road, just replacing those old anodes for safety, pretty much public safety reasons. And there's another one over by the MGP plant.
Over by which plant?
No, that's the one, the MGP plant, over on Blodgett Street. There's a small, on Blodgett Street, there's a small regulator station that just requires that line to be replaced.
Okay, all right.
As a promise, I brought those courtesy notifications. That's something we do under the exemption.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sergio. Okay, so I'll get this signed, copy it, and send it to you. Yeah, I don't see anything coming on this.
Take care, thank you.
Okay. I asked Mr. Kevin Procopio to come to the meeting today. He had called me yesterday about his land that I had provided the maps of. It's on the other side of the Expressway South. So Kevin, if you'd come to the microphone.
Good
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. As the Chairman already stated, my name is Kevin Procopio from Procopio Construction Company, and I had requested permission to clean up some of the debris and the brush and do some minor grading on the lot that is bounded by the off-ramp to the Revere Beach Parkway there at the Fenno Street. I guess it's an extension of Fenno Street on the other side of the highway. And what the chairman had recommended is that I do a RDA request for determination. So I don't know if I can submit that now.
Yeah, it requires a notification in the paper of a public hearing.
I will do that.
Yep.
But I
Yep, you can. Okay, this is fine. Yep, this is good.
get started with that.
Yeah.
And I also have you have a map of the locus?
Yes, the same map that I had sent you.
You have that.
They had those. Yep.
I also printed up some
Okay, what those?
aerials
Yep.
so that you can see what I'm talking about.
What the photo? Aerial photo? Give you a little bit more than I did. Yeah, I know the area well. Oh, you got one for Joe. Okay, good. I didn't know it was Revere until I went to work for Chelsea.
We went over there and I still didn't follow the line to Revere.
Well, basically, what I would like to do is go in there with one of those little mowers on a very small rubber track excavator. It has a flail mower on it that for cleaning up brush and whatnot. Just to give you a little bit of a background of what took place here, and it's explained in the request. But we started working on this land and got it permitted back in the 70s, the early 70s. We actually had a building permit, dug the footings, put underpinnings in, actually mucked out down to a certain depth and brought in ledge and put the underpinnings in for footings. So there's all big rock and ledge placed in the area where the footings were going to be for a 144-unit apartment complex in there, 7-story, 144 units. At the time, it got stopped because of a conflict that there was with, I think it was the mayor of Chelsea at the time. And so we stopped at that point. It was rezoned. We weren't aware that it was being rezoned, and it was rezoned, and so now it's down to, I think, single-family residential or something at this point. In the meantime, the land has been sitting, and when they built the IRS building in Chelsea, they drove concrete pilings in there, and they had some surplus cutoffs that they needed to get rid of. So we took some to some sites that we were using them on in Saugus, and they asked if we had any nearer sites that they could stack a few temporarily. Well, they ended up dumping a lot of small tails in there, as well as a few long pieces in there, and it became very difficult for us to do anything on the site as far as cleaning it up. We didn't realize that they would dump all of this material in there, and it's not a continually monitored site. So by the time we saw what was happening and were able to shut it down, there was a tremendous amount of this concrete material in there. We started stacking it and organizing it and moving it around so that we could do something with it eventually and get rid of it.
But we had to shut that down as well because there was too many other things going on. And trees and brush and everything grew up in between all of this material that's there. A lot of it is debris. There's been a lot of, dumping and just debris that's been caught in that area because now we have spoils piles from the footings that were dug. We have ditches where the rock was placed, and obviously it was a depression, so there were puddles here and there. We would like to just generally clean this place up, take the brush out of there, maybe cut some of the trees that blew in there as seeds from then to now, and they just belong there, and it's just interfering with anything that we go to do over there as far as cleaning it up and then moving forward with a rezoning and coming forward with a new plan. The plan at this point has evolved from the 7-story, 144 units. We came forward with a plan, I'm going to say maybe a year or two ago, and we presented it to site plan review for a 13-story, 200 and something unit building to go in there. And they requested that we put something a little more in keeping with the profile of the surrounding area, downscale it a bit. So we now are working with a plan that is a 5-story plus a roof and maybe a story in the roof, and possibly 100 to 110 units in a low-profile apartment complex in there. So that's the point that we're at. We have not moved forward with rezoning or anything yet, but we're in the planning stages, and in order to do any kind of work as far as the planning goes and reconnaissance on the site and get data that whatever we may need for the approvals process, we need to clear it a bit and get some of the stuff out of there that's been placed in there.
Questions?
Mayor of Chelsea have to do with the city Revere?
Well, if you'll notice on that plan, the Revere-Chelsea line it borders this property. Our boundary line is the Revere-Chelsea line. The entrance to the site is in Chelsea.
Oh, okay.
The services for the site come from Chelsea.
Oh, okay.
Revere gets the taxes. End of story.
Okay.
And the people renting the apartments with more children for the schools. Not that I don't like children.
Well, we try to minimize the size of the units here so that they're
NAR?
the units. Well, we're trying to put a lot of 1-bedrooms, even 2-bedrooms. We currently own and manage apartments, and we don't have a whole lot of children in 1- and 2-bedroom apartments.
It's out of our jurisdiction, I apologize.
But thank you. I know I'll face the question later, so you were prepping me.
Right, yeah. Be prepared for that
I believe
one.
you will. I got you prepared for the next
He's
one.
got a
Just
pretty
with-
good approval process he's got to go through. One of the biggest things being
Right, that's why,
lack of water and sewer availability to the site from the city of Revere.
Correct.
The councilors go nuts.
So anyway, that's just a brief summary of what's gone on this lot. And at this point, quite frankly, I think it's used as a drug base where they're cooking all kinds of stuff in the back there. You can see the setup in there now that I would like to get in there and be able to at least clear this out so that there's not this hidden, shrouded subculture going on in there.
Andy, through the
Joe.
chair, my only concern would be that if you're going to remove the vegetation, you would still leave shrubs, grass, or whatever, so that wouldn't just be a mud pit over there.
Well, that was the part about some slight regrading, because the trucks and whatever has gone in there to deal with this stuff has made ruts and little areas that have settled. So you'll have. I would like to get some positive drainage there so that it's not able to pocket and pond.
Yeah, I guess,
So then you would be grading the area so that you wouldn't get that kind of
Right.
puddles and everything
Right.
else.
As I mentioned, ultimately, I'd like to level that lot out because we left it, we just dropped everything back in 1976. And I distinctly recall, it was a major shutdown. We had to just shut the whole thing down. We dropped everything. We left these huge spoil piles with these 300-foot long footing trenches with all kinds of rock in them. Now, that's a hazard in itself. And at this point, my intent is to at least make it so that it's a reasonably level, safe area, and then move forward with this whole process of going ahead with a development there.
Yeah, so with grading, we'd be concerned about maintaining some sort of erosion controls along the paved ditch. And you'd be removing all the brush, so we wouldn't need to be concerned about it getting washed into the ditch and creating
Right.
flooding problems.
There is that concrete ditch, that
Yes.
concrete line ditch that runs the perimeter of the highway
Snake River.
side. What is that?
Snake River.
Snake River? It's not Mill Creek.
No, it's referred to, and I don't know how I know this or who told me that, as Snake River at one time, because they used to go do that, but the upstream end of Mill Creek.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess the only concern I have about not having an NOI in place is, it seems like you're proposing some good work here on this property that's been left to other people's devices for 40 years now, but, trees have grown there. There's mature trees, there's drainage, there's some jurisdictional wetlands. It's Zone A flood zone, so without having a little more detail on what you plan to do with regard to the clearing, I know it's just preliminary, so you can get some more planning efforts going, but I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, if this warrants an NOI, or if maybe you should develop your plan and your approach a little bit more, and then file an NOI at this point.
Yeah, well, the first step towards an NOI is an IDA. A lot of times I tell people, certainly with a building project, you might as well skip the IDA, because I'm going to tell you right now that determination from the commission is going to be you have to file an NOI.
That would be a given to me. I mean, I would understand that. But at this point, I guess I should have broke this into phases.
Yeah.
I would like to clean up the brush so we can get in there and do even surveying. You can't even move around in there to get access to points through there. But if I could do some clearing, leave the actual site work alone at this point, and just mow the brush kind of thing, and even, the big trees I could leave at this point and work around them, just enough to get these blocks moved and whatnot that's sitting on the site.
If you want to do a site
So I would
visit,
phase
we
it.
can do a site visit, schedule the IDA for a public meeting. I spoke to the clerk's office today because our normal meeting would be July 3rd, which doesn't work for anybody, I'm sure.
Right.
So they said we could meet July 2nd, the Tuesday, which I think will work for people. I don't know your availability. Some people take vacation at that time, but more people are on vacation later in the month, and the month of August is what I've found. So if that works for your schedule, we could do a site visit on, it'd be what, June 30th? Working back, 2nd, 1st, 30th, June 29th. If you want to do that. Because I know you haven't seen the area. I've seen the area. Joe's seen the area. Be a little difficult for you, Ann, I'm sure. Certainly difficult for Vinnie.
Oh, excuse me.
Thank you very much.
So that you say, you're Mr. Livingston.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rough area.
It's pretty difficult to
Yeah.
for me to even make my way through
Yeah.
there. There's so
Yeah,
many
I'm just being
thorns and all
straightforward
kinds
about
of stuff just grown all over the place there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but if Jim wanted to see it, if you're available the 29th. Okay.
Yeah, that works.
If Kevin's available, we can just go down there ourselves.
That's fine. I mean, I think I should be able to be available. 29th, Saturday.
Yeah, and typically we do them fairly early, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm a morning person.
Okay.
How many trucks and things, excuse me, you're gonna have with the neighbors? If they gonna complain about all the trucks and things? Or you're gonna,
Oh, I don't think at this point there would be any trucks in there. There might be we might bring maybe a wheel loader or something with forks to move some of these concrete things.
yeah, but you get rid of all this brush and so forth.
The brush will be mulched.
Oh, you're gonna mulch it?
It will
Okay.
be mulched with a flail mower, one of
Okay.
those blades
you
that
said
just,
Mulched and left on site, Kevin?
Yes.
Because that is a concern of mine, having dealt with flooding as a result of the reeds clogging the grates at the culverts under the ramps to Route 1
okay.
in the past, is that make sure stuff doesn't get down into the ditch. And,
Okay, so it's contained. We
yeah,
need to
be
contain it.
contained. Yeah, so if
Yeah.
you do that with erosion controls and maintain those, that'd be a way to do it, but that would be
Right.
a concern.
There is a fence there.
Yes.
There's a chain link fence all along that ditch, and the size, I think, of these pieces certainly wouldn't even go through that fence.
Is the
Once-
fence right along the ditch at that point? I thought the fence...
It's got maybe
Yeah, it was
a
behind
travel
the house.
access on the other side of
It's
it.
been a while since I've been down. It's
Yeah.
been a few years.
It's like being-
Okay, so we'll do a site visit June 29th,
At, what time did you say, 9?
9 a.m. And we'll meet right at Fenno and Columbus at the corner there.
Okay,
And public meeting, I'll send you a notice, form a notice for the public meeting, get it published in the Revere Journal
for the RDA.
for the idea.
Very good.
To be published 29th, 28th, for the edition on the 26th, I believe, Wednesday. So I'll get it to you and I'll give you instructions, Kevin.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes the meeting. Motion to adjourn? All those in favor? And as I said, our next meeting will be on Tuesday the 2nd. You all set, Daniel?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll talk to you.